It's a simple airplane. It has the same level of communications, ISR capabilities, and even weapons capabilities of some very high-end platforms. Basically give you almost a 360-degree look around the airplane, so you can be warned of any type of missile tracking launches. And then if you do happen to find one, then we'll talk about the weapons you can carry to take care of that. It's probably one of the most reliable engines I've ever flown. So, a former Chief of Staff of the Air Force, when we were doing some work with this many years ago, his vision of it, which I think is still apropos today, is that this airplane can fit in with a service that doesn't necessarily have the budget to buy the high-end airplanes, such as F-35s or whatever. They don't have the infrastructure, large runways and everything like that. They may not have the maintenance force to be able to. So it's a simple airplane to maintain. It can be operated from very rough or austere fields. However, it has the same level of communications and ISR capabilities and even weapons capabilities of some very high-end platforms. So it enables any partner around the world, maybe not with the budget of the USF, to be able to integrate with the joint force, whatever it may be operating in that area, as well as joint forces on the ground to be able to protect them. So its comms and its ISR capability is at the top tier of it. The airplane is designed to be easily maintained, operated from basically any runway by almost any level of mechanic. And that's
it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I would like to, we're going to dive into avionics, but I do know, like, with the Garmin setup in there, is like any F-16 pilot would kill to have that Garmin setup. But I want to start with the engine. About 1,500 hours with the PT6 motor, very reliable from my experience. I know it's proliferated across the globe. I would imagine starting with the power plant, that can be a big hurdle for some nations. Again, like, we got one motor, I want it to work, and I want to be able to work on it if I need to. But this thing has got to be an interesting aspect of it.
Well, I mean, so for our airplane, simply because of the weight and everything, we've used the PT6 67F, the most powerful version of the PT6 is made. 1,600 horsepower is how we operate it. It's up to 1,700 horsepower to be able to pull all this with it. But if you think about the fact that this airplane, this version, the AT802, is in about 30 countries. Beyond that, there's PT6s of various variants all over the world. Pratt & Whitney has the ability to maintain any motor in any country and help out anybody that needs help. We have ever found this motor, I don't want to say bulletproof, but it's probably one of the most reliable engines I've ever flown. And I have a little bit of time back to the original T6A. Such an upgrade from this. I think that's 1,200. This is up to 16. So again, these have been compared to my time in the F-16, the F-15. These engines, you really don't have to worry about them. I don't want to say you can abuse them, but there's a lot of range about what you can and can't do with the motor and not cause any damage.
I mean, obviously I saw in the PT6 world teaching, or T6 world teaching, those things went through a lot of abuse, but it really was the MC-12, and I saw how much those were used in non-hospitable environments. So I was like, you know, if I ever win the lottery, I would probably buy a King Air so I could have some PT6 motors. Really
so a lot of ability to maintain the engine, which has already proven its reliability across many variants. So that's just another plus for a country that may not have a full engine shop and engine depot and all the expertise to maintain, say, jet engines of another variant. So that's why it adds some reliability to this airplane.
And then I would imagine too, we talk about the airframe in general, right? 802 air tractor proliferated across the globe. If we just talk the maintenance and the parts availability of that has to be a big benefit too, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, Air Tractor, the company, again, supports their airplanes across the world. 30 countries this variant, but there's 3 or 4 other variants that have some similarities that Air Tractors. I mean, they're used as firefighters, crop dusters, everywhere there. But the simplicity of the design is what makes the maintainability, short of the avionics, what makes the maintainability of the basic airframe so simple. I mean, we're talking sheet metal, we're talking large spring gear without struts that you have to worry about servicing, large tires, large brakes, and everything else can be basically repaired via whatever sheet metal shop you have. And then once you dig into the sheet metal, you find out that there's pulleys and cables and push rods and everything to make it very simple to maintain. I mean, you know, for instance, our Ad-Data computers are situated right behind the pitot tube, so that if you have to do any work on that, as opposed to going through the plumbing all the way back to the cockpit on other airplanes. So the simplicity of maintenance is the selling feature for any of our partners that may not have the exquisite depot facilities and maintenance forces that we may have here in the U.S.
I just heard avionics tech, just the tear hitting the ground when they're not shooting wires and running through the whole plane and pulling motors, et cetera. I would like to maybe transition and take a look at the wing and what is comprised of that. So, because the wing has a lot of different things on it, a lot of different things going on, I think.
Well, so The wing is unique. In fact, we basically redesigned this wing to be able to make sure we have a full 8,000 hours on the airplane. So the structure inside is a little bit different than the generic aircraft, and so we made that the case. We have the ability to load up 9 different stations on this airplane. We only use really about 4 of those right now, but the growth areas, center line, room for another pod over there if we choose to, and potentially a range of 500-pound class weapons can be based on what the partner may need or want or desire. The wing itself, in addition to the centerpiece being the MMS pod, multi-mission support system pod with the 2 ISR balls, we have fire suppression foam in the wing. We have self-sealing panels along here to be able to absorb some combat damage and still keep flying. The wing itself is allowed to carry about 125 gallons. It's really rated up to about 165.
Okay.
Right now we have 125 in each of the wings. It's been modified with these Vortex generators you see to be able to allow it to handle all the power and force coming off of a 1,600 horsepower engine. So that is something that's made this airplane, made sure it's controllable, made sure we have the right airflow going over the right part of the wings, and then allow us to deal with all of the stores we may be putting out here. And then as you get further out into it, very simple, we'll start adding antennas. When you get to the end of the wing, we have self-protection equipment, missile warning. It's a fully combat-ready wing, both to survive and both to employ the weapons that you see here.
You mentioned the fuel, obviously a little bit reduced fuel in the wings here, but since we're not doing crop dusting like the 802 was designed for, I imagine we place that fuel somewhere else.
Yeah, well, I mean, so we have a 333-gallon hopper tank up there. Air Tractor's designation of 802, 502, 402, that's the number of gallons of pesticide or fertilizer, whatever. So the airplane is designed to carry 800 gallons plus 4 to the fuselage. We take about half of that and put all of our avionics and power systems in there, and then put a fuel tank up there with 333 gallons. So when you start adding this all together, you have about 8 hours of total flying time. A 250 mile an hour, or 250 mile range roughly, and then 5 hours of endurance once you get there, and then it just depends on how you're gonna fly. So if you think about mixing and matching 70 to 80 gallons an hour of what it burns, that's what your combat mission is gonna look like, wherever you choose to go with it. Right above the airfield, go 200 miles. The wings and the fuel there will get you there.
All right, I want to talk basic flying, and I'm going to delineate this because I think you and I both can appreciate there's a difference between flying an aircraft, how easy it is. Like I think flying the F-16, like design, it's pretty easy to fly. When it comes to employing it, that's when you're spending a lot of your time in training, figure out how to run the sensors, how to utilize the weapons properly, target tactics, etc. But when it comes to just the basics of flying the plane, walk me through that. If I was to jump in there, what would my kind of program look like? How hard would it be for me to figure it out?
Well, the program we have, and we have instructors that have been trained in this with over 400, 500 hours now. It's going to be different than any training program you've gone through or I've gone through, and I learned that very vividly as we go through it. I mean, just taxiing the airplane is an interesting proposition compared to an F-16 or an F-15. But it's something you gradually get into. So taxiing the airplane, you have to really be aware of the winds. You're using all 4 limbs all the time, even on taxi, and certainly on takeoff and landing. But the reason I see that as a benefit is because of what this airplane is designed to do is land on any surface anywhere. Farm roads, unprepared fields, whatever you need to do to go to support your force, which means you need to be able to manually control all the axes of the airplanes all the time based on shifting conditions. Something you would never try to do with an F-16 with this automated flight controls. So that means you got to learn to fly in ways you probably, and I never really learned to fly until I got into this airplane. And then once you get comfortable with that and you get mastery of that, it's always work coming back to land, but then you get it up on cap, and then the avionics, which we'll talk about, take a lot of the work away.
Yeah, let's talk just a little bit about the avionics piece. And coming from your background, how do you see, I guess if you can compare and contrast what sensors are available to the pilot, to the combat system operator in the back, how all that fits into the bigger picture?
Yeah. Well, from just basic avionics, out of all my years in the Air Force, 35 years and 4,800 hours, it has the most advanced avionics in the cockpit of anything I flew in the Air Force, with the Garmin systems and all the support that it brings with it, and the autopilot. As I mentioned, I fly 2021 SR-22 that has the same Garmin 3000 system, piece of cake. So controlling the airplane once you're up on cap, once your mission is beautifully simple. And then the work begins between you and your combat systems officer about how you're going to control these weapons. So on any given day, I mean, you're working with basically 5 or 6 radios, mission radios, that can bring in data link tracks, that can bring in beyond line of sight communications via the SATCOM, which you can send out beyond line of sight communications such as video. And then you're working the 2 exquisite sensors we have here, the MX-20 and the MX-15. And if you think about how these are designed to work, the MX-15 is basically designed to control and employ the weapons in a small area with very focused look on it. The MX-20 is good at surveilling a bigger area and watching everything around what may be going on in the area while you're targeting weapons with that. So you have a full range of ISR capability between the 2 sensors over a wide area to be able to do that. And you can have your combat systems officer running one, the pilot in the front can run one, the combat systems can run both, you can run both. There's a lot of flexibility in there. And then at the same time, you're working with video and data links and radios and communicating with any part of the joint force or any part of the partner force you may need to on any type of system available. So that's what makes it so useful to any type of force out there that may have very unique capabilities.
I would imagine you'd also have the ability to beam that video off board to either a ground force commander, back to an operations center, et cetera, which can be very beneficial. Being able to know we're looking at the same piece of sky, getting input, et cetera.
We can get beyond line of sight data into the airplane. We can send it off there. And then at the same time, if you got a force on the ground right here, there's video that can come off certain antennas that can go like down to the rover systems on the US forces or other systems like that, which have been sold around the world. So they can see what you're seeing at the same time you're seeing it. So you guys all have the same picture of what's going on the ground, and well as what may be coming in from the Joint Operations Center, wherever it may be, about what needs to be done and what you need to be focused on.
Okay, you mentioned self-fuel or self-sealing, some capability there. Self-protect systems. Can you dive into that just a little bit?
Yeah, so a lot of folks have questioned, well, why don't you have ejection seats? You probably don't want to eject right over the guy you're shooting with on the ground. Right. So
it's ill-advised usually.
Yeah, it's not a great thing. And at 140 knots, you're not going to run away very fast. I mean, you're designed to loiter. So how do we handle that? There is armor plating underneath key parts of the engine. There's armor plating under the header fuel tank so you don't lose that. There's armor plating under the cockpit, in the side walls of the cockpit. It has bulletproof glass in the front 3 panels there. So there's a lot of protection for the vital fuel systems as well as the pilot from basic small arms fire. I mentioned we have self-sealing panels in the wing, and then we have foam, which is fire suppression in the wings there. LA-47s that the rest of the Joint Force has. AFR-47s for the missile warning basically give you almost a 360-degree look around the airplane. So you can be warned of any type of missile tracking launches, and then you can basically set up your countermeasures to be employed in whatever mix, however you choose to do it. Figure your generic threat for when you're operating this 12, 15, 16, 18,000 feet could be manpads, and certainly it's going to be anti-aircraft fire. So you want to know where those are and what's going on. And then if you do happen to find one, then we'll talk about the weapons you can carry to take care of that.
Perfect. Well, CR, as we're out here, anything I'm missing that I should be asking you that we need to showcase about the Skyraider 2?
No, I mean, it provides to me the excellent opportunity for any of our forces around there that probably just will not be able to employ to its fullest extent an F-35 or an F-16 or any of the aftermarket resale of other fighters. But if you want to be tied in to any of the larger NATO forces or the larger joint forces in your area, CENTCOM, SOUTHCOM, EUCOM, any of things like that, you have total capability to tie into those forces and take advantage of all of the things that all those other systems bring that you don't necessarily have the capability of. And then when you bring the airplane back, if you need to work on it, if you need to repair it, you have a lot of service support around the world, and you have a fairly easy airplane to maintain. And then we talk about what the cost per flying hour is compared to an F-16 or F-35 or whatever, and it's just not comparable.
Yeah, I imagine it's pennies. Yeah.
And the last thing I'll mention here is that we know most of our partners are going to want to put some type of weapon on of their liking. They'll probably even want to put their own specific comm systems in, maybe not the radios we have. There's tons of flexibility to be able to man up these stations with unique weapons or to tailor the communication system for whatever that particular nation wants to use.
I'm sure there's a different name for but open architecture.
It's about as open as you can get, because there is no grand OFP that you have to break into to tie everything together, other than our Harvester software system. But that Harvester software system that pulls in all of the weapons capabilities is proliferated in numerous countries around the world, and it is easily tailorable for whatever the particular partner may want to be able to do with it.
Awesome. CR, thanks for the time today.
Glad to do it.
Yeah, thanks so much.